part of my vision and part of the plan for seeing this accomplished it was going to take a lot. But I heard somebody say once, if your dreams don't scare you, your dreams are too small.
Mm.
And I said, okay, let's start putting this into motion to where we have a training initiative overseas that can impact a lot of churches and a lot of people and even nations.
Welcome, everyone. Today we have Tyler Sullivan back on the podcast to talk to us about a really cool project he is working on that involves Sydney. He talks to us about his background in music, what the Beyond project that he has just announced is all about, why Sydney is the perfect place for this event, who is going to make up the Beyond team, and much more. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us today. It's great to have you back on.
Man, thank you, Greg. It's so good to be back with you again. And it's an honor to be here. I had a great time last time and look forward to talking with you today.
Another day, another hotel, the life of evangelist. You're talking about some of your travel issues, trying to get this lined up.
Man,
So we
it
appreciate
has
it.
been a day. Yes, sir. I'm actually currently in Eureka, California right now, one of my favorite places in the world. And it's right on the coast of Northern California, probably about an hour and a half south of the Oregon border. As soon as I landed, I swung through one of my favorite coffee shops, Dutch Bros,
Oh,
and
yes.
I got coffee, jetted straight to the hotel room, man, and got in here just in time. So it's been a crazy day, but I'm here and I'm ready, man.
Well, if you're fueled by Dutch Bros, this is going to be a tremendous episode. I love that place. I go way too much every time I'm in the States.
Oh man, my go-to drink is a medium nitro cold brew, iced with 4 heavy cream, one sweet and low, sugar-free chocolate, sugar-free strawberry, and it tastes just like chocolate-covered strawberries. So it's my go-to every time. I get the sweet taste and I get the energy too. So gotta love it.
Yeah, they just expanded recently to Kansas City. And while I was there,
Okay.
they're actually building one within 2 kilometers of my dad's house there in Kansas City. So it wasn't finished yet, but next time I might put on a couple kg just because of the Dutch Bros around the corner.
I love it, man. It's one of my favorites.
Well, last time we had you on, we talked about your story, your background. We talked about ministry. Today we've got you on to talk about a really cool event that's coming up. But before we get to that, before we highlight that, I wanted to um, have you share a little bit about your background in music. This has to do with the event that's coming up. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your background, you got some pretty cool stories. You've chatted with us about our music team here in Sydney. But if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of that before we start talking about the project that you have upcoming.
Yeah, man. I grew up in a really musical family. My as I mentioned in the previous podcast, my family started a what they used to call home missions work, North American missions work, up in Paradise, California, and my mom was the keyboard player. I was the drummer, and that was about it, man. And so I grew up in a very musical family. My mom was an amazing keyboard player, amazing singer, and um, we were the music for the church. And so I grew up. I remember. I think the first special I ever sang was the Anchor Holds. I went to the local Christian bookstore. I went and got a tape soundtrack. And I used to love going to the Christian bookstore. I went and got an old cassette tape, and it was the Anchor Holds. I don't know if you remember that song or not. Years
I
and
think
years and
I'm
years ago.
pretty
I think
sure
it
I do.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was Ray Boltz or something like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I went and got the Anchor Holds, and I started singing that in church. And being a home missions church, sometimes, I mean, I sang it every Sunday, and eventually started singing more. But uh, that was the first song I ever sang, in front of a church, and so still remember that, and loved singing, loved music, and our family was one of those families that we would, gather around the piano often, or when we would get together, there was going to be some type of music, some type of singing, and so kind of cut my teeth on music growing up, and my whole family's musical. I sing, my sister sings, she's an amazing singer, Katie. My brother sings, my mom sings. Now my dad doesn't sing, and yeah, he does, he just doesn't sing, and so he would even tell you that. But it was funny, growing up, we would all gather around, and dad would just kind of sit there and just kind of watch, and we would all. I remember some when I was just young, and there wasn't a lot of people in the church who could lead songs. My dad would lead when he had to, but he didn't lead a lot, and so yeah, just a very very musical family, and I remember just growing up loving music, and learning to sing. Some of my favorites growing up were just the powerhouse vocalists. You can probably remember these names: Michael English, David Phelps, Larnell Harris. You can go down the list, and I would grow up listening to them, the Gaither Vocal Band, even just because I loved harmony back in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
so grew up listening to all of them. And I remember starting out leading worship. One of the first times I led worship was when we used to break out the hymnals, the Sing Unto the Lord hymnals, and some may
Yeah.
remember those, some may not. But the church, the people had the brown hymnals they were singing to the Lord. But if you were the worship leader back in the day, you had the red hymnal, and so everybody knew you were the worship
Mm.
leader if you had the red Sing Unto the Lord hymnal. And so one time there was an old song I remember, one of my first times leading. It was called "My Burdens Rolled Away," and so I thought I knew
Mm.
it. I thought I could get up and lead the church and singing it. And so I got up and started leading that song that day. I just made a debauchery of it. It was just horrible. I messed it up. Everybody in the service started laughing, and man, it was pretty embarrassing. And so I remember my dad got up after I got done leading that song, "My Burdens Rolled Away." He said, "Well, let's just let that song roll away." And so, man, good times back in the day. But yeah, I love music, love singing still to this day, you know. Uh, but I could talk forever about it. But just I fell in love with worship leaders at a young age, and just listening um, to that style of music, and grew up pretty old school. I loved the old Carlton Pearson albums, Live at Azusa. Grew up listening to those, and they would just go out straight up church in on those projects, and Donnie McClurkin and all of that. So those are some of my favorites. But I remember um, starting to get out and lead worship a little bit more, and man, just loving music even to this day. So like I said, I could talk forever about it, but that's just a little how I grew up on music. So
What would you say are some of your influences now? So you talk about a bit of your influences back then. Do you have some that you lean towards now as you're developed in your musical gifting?
yeah, I mean, you're going to find me reaching back every time I begin to talk about it, just because some of those names I just mentioned a little bit ago are some of the ones that I grew up loving, and as I got older, things changed a little bit. I started to listen to guys like Eddie James, and of course, everybody sings Eddie James songs, and they're powerful. And uh, we could start naming Eddie James songs right now, and just everybody would know them. Of course, Israel back in the day. I mean, I think Israel was revolutionary in
Mm-hmm.
in taking what the contemporary, the gospel, the everything, and molding it into one. So I think um, my generation back in the day, back in the early earlier 2000s, I mean, everybody knows Israel songs, and so that influenced me a lot. That whole era, that 2000 to 2010, 2012 was absolutely epic. I think somebody who, aside from Israel, who I think ushered in a whole new era of music, Christian music and worship style music, would be Michael W. Smith. I mean, you
Yeah.
start to go back and talk about how things begin to revolutionize and how things begin to change. You would look at that, you would see Michael W. Smith begin to um, change everything. I mean, you think
Hmm.
back to the songs. Uh, Man, what were some of the songs that he would sing? I'm trying to rack my brain right now. Um, this is the
He
air I
said,
breathe. This is the
yeah.
air I breathe. I mean, just at that era, everything started to change, and I think you saw Israel pick up from Michael W. Smith and take it to the next level. Then you saw people like Trent Corey come in and so forth, so on. And so, man, looking at all of them, that's what I really cut my teeth on, because that was a major part of my life in that era. And
Hmm.
man, you're going to find me probably reverting back to that style when I lead, just because it was so powerful, it was so effective, and churches to this day are still singing those songs that we sang back then. And I think a lot of them are just as powerful today as they were back then. So, I mean, you start down that road, like I said, we could talk forever. But what's crazy is, and I don't mean this in any type of a negative slight, but I look at guys like Michael W. Smith, and I think to myself, how in the world is this guy still relevant almost
Mm.
30, 40 years after he started coming on the scene? I mean, you look at him, like almost every 10 years, he changes styles,
Mm.
basically to accommodate that generation. And it's worked for him. I mean, he's still coming out with hits. He's still coming out with things that the church uses. And so, I mean, looking at that, it's absolutely mind blowing just to think Michael W. Smith is still relevant 40 years after he's come on the scene, which is, I mean, amazing to say something like that. And so, man, I think that music overall, if it's effective, it's going to stay relevant, not
Mm.
just for the generation that they are leading in, but for the future generations to come.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. So you recently announced the Beyond project. Would you mind explaining a little bit of what that's about, for those who didn't see the announcement? Share a little bit about the project and also your vision behind it. You know, why are you wanting to do this?
Absolutely, man. So I guess I'll start it off like this. Over the past few years, my heartbeat has been for missions, and I've been privileged to go on a lot of missions trips. I think the first one I ever took was to the nation of Taiwan, and I just remember that was a very pivotal part in my life. I think I was 19, 20 years old at that time, and I remember that was the first missions trip I ever took. But over the last few years, my heartbeat has evolved, and I've been involved in a lot of work here in the U.S. and in my home district in California, and uh, but something began to happen several years ago, and my heartbeat just began to beat towards overseas. And I really believe in the day in which we're living, the Lord's eyes are turning to the overseas nations, and I I've been, like I said, privileged to take a lot of trips overseas in the last few years, and just to do what I can to help, just to be a part of whatever I can be, whatever I could be a part of. And just, I love the churches overseas. I have such respect for the missionaries overseas who have given up everything to go over and
Mm-hmm.
fulfill their dreams that God has given them. And so, um, when I when I begin to think about all of this, and the Lord put that passion in my heartbeat, He had also given me a vision, um, of doing a live recording with along with helping as much as I could overseas. And I well, I wanted to do everything that I could to be a blessing to missionaries overseas and to do what I could to help the church overseas. I also wanted to do a live recording, but I never wanted to do one. I never wanted to do one unless it actually met up with my passion and my heartbeat for missions. And so I began to pray about it. God, when is your timing? What is your timing? And what do you want me to do here? And like I said, I've always wanted to do a live recording, but in 2022, I had the opportunity to visit Australia. Um, and I remember seeing you there. We talked a lot. We even took a trip up to, where did we go that day? We went to
The Blue Mountains.
the Blue Mountains. Yes, yes, I still remember that. And we stopped in that one place and got ice cream. I still remember that too. Um, but man, I just, that heartbeat for missions just came back stronger, and it came back more passionate than I've had in a long time. And I was praying that year, and I just began to pray, God, you see my heartbeat for wanting to help the works overseas. You see my passion for wanting to be a blessing to the churches overseas. And I think I came to Australia for the first time back in 2018,
Hmm.
and came back in 2022. And when I was praying in 2022, this is after I had visited you guys again, I just began praying, God, um, you see what I want to do. You see my passion. You see my heartbeat. So as I was in prayer, I still remember that day. I began to think, well, Lord, what if we were able to do a live recording in Sydney? And I began to think about that, pray about that. But again, I began to think, okay, God, I don't want to do a live recording just for the sake of doing a live recording. If we're going to do this, I want it to be as effective as it can be. I want to actually go beyond, and I want to equip and engage as many people as possible with tools necessary and needed for furthering the gospel in the day in which we live. I don't want to do a live recording to say, oh, it's all about Tyler. No, I don't want to do that. I want to actually make an impact. I want to make a mark to say, okay, yes, God was glorified through this. And so I said, if I'm going to do this and it's going to happen, I said, no, 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 I'm going to actually do more than just a live recording. I want to do more than just a live recording. I want to impact uh, the nations and area in which we're going to do a live recording. So I called Pastor Stan Harvey in Australia. I began to talk to him about my burden, about my vision, and to not only do this live recording, but to actually make this a training initiative to where we can impact as many people as possible and affect as many churches as possible, not just, okay, thanks for coming to the live recording, we're done, and God bless y'all, but actually leave an impact and a mark. And in talking to him about this, I just began to get so excited, and I think he began to get excited too, and just in talking with him about it, because part of my vision and part of the plan for seeing this accomplished it was going to take a lot. But I heard somebody say once, if your dreams don't scare you, your dreams are too small.
Mm.
And I said, okay, let's start putting this into motion to where we have a training initiative overseas that can impact a lot of churches and a lot of people, and even nations. And I said, if let's start to get this in motion. And we did, and we finally came up with some dates in 2024, April 29th through May 8th, 2024, to where we are coming to the nation of Australia, and we are going to conduct a training seminar with many different artists. And I think we'll get to that in just a minute. I'm having a hard time not skipping over myself here, but to where we're going to have a training initiative to where we're going to basically come to Sydney and man, we're going to impact as many people as possible. We're going to train as many people as possible. Come alongside the incredible work that you guys are already doing, that you guys have already established and are fulfilling in that country, and basically go beyond what we're comfortable with over here to take the whole gospel to the whole world. And we're looking forward to coming over and getting to be a part of what you guys have already established and are already doing, and just adding whatever we can add to make sure that we're not just filling space, but we're fulfilling his will.
Mm, that's awesome. And but you've traveled to a number of different countries, as you said, over the years. Why did you choose Sydney? Why was that a place that you felt was where you wanted to do this project?
Man, so I remember coming over for the first time in 2018, and I remember meeting everybody, meeting Pastor Stan, meeting Greg Wilmot, meeting you and Steph, and I felt an instant connection with the churches, the people, the ministry over there, and the country itself. I fell in love with it, and I said, you know what? I just feel such a connection with this place. I know God is going to have something here in the future, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but I felt that instant connection with Sydney, with Australia as a whole. And I remember coming for the first time and visiting many churches there, and the spirit of revival that's in that nation, and the desire for more. I developed that camaraderie with the ministry. I felt like over there that I knew was going to be a lasting relationship. And in developing all of this, obviously we were in Sydney for the majority of that time when I was there, and I became a little bit familiar with the surrounding area and the main point of Sydney there. And I know that it's in developing what we're dreaming about doing right now in 2024. It seemed like a great central place to host this. It's a great place. Um, the Pentecostals of Sydney is a great church. It's a great host church, and the airport is right there. It just made so much sense to put it in a place like this, whereas the whole nation is so hungry for revival. It just seemed like a good place to bring everybody to a central location to do this. I mean, if people travel in from surrounding countries, Sydney's a great place to travel into, and it just seemed like a great,
Hmm.
easy location for those hungry to further themselves in training, in revival, in ministry, whatever it would be. And I know we'll talk about some of those topics later, but I love Pastor Stan. I love all your staff there. I love everybody. And it just seemed like it was a great connection and a great center point to accomplish what I felt the Lord wanted us to accomplish in the time that we're there.
Mm. You've got a really cool team coming. It's quite an impressive team. Who are some of the people that you have, again, if someone hasn't seen the announcement, who are some of the people that you have coming down under that our listeners would know about?
Man, so in developing all of this, we wanted to uh, pick a team that could play dual roles. Number one, obviously, with the live recording that's going to end um, in the initiative on the last day we're there, or the last day of the second to the last day of the initiative. Basically, we wanted the team to be able to fulfill dual roles in that they would be able to come over and help fulfill the objective and mission of Beyond by teaching classes and teaching some of the seminars that we have planned for this training. And so we wanted them to be able to fulfill the training, the teaching aspect of this, but we also wanted them to be able to play a part in the live recording and fulfill dual roles in this, because we knew that obviously traveling to another country is going to be costly. It's going to be a lot for people to do. And so we wanted everybody to be able to um, do this and do that.
Mm,
And so we picked this team, and there's so many great people coming that um, I just can't begin to say enough about each one of the team members. But some of the names that are coming over there are going to be David Jennings, Brittany Scott, Jonathan McDonald, Aaron Bounds, Kurt Kenai, Jessica Giovanni, um, Colton Duty, Travis Dykes. I mean, I could talk about the team all night long just because each one is so talented
mm,
in their giftings and in their fields, everything that they do. And so, whether it's going to be playing a part in the teaching initiative, um, they're going to excel. And if it's going to be
mm.
the live recording, they're going to excel. So everybody coming over is going to play dual roles, and there's just so much good you could say about each one of them. There's going to be about a total of 15 coming over that are going to be teaching classes and teaching in the seminars, but then also turning around and also being a part of the live recording.
That's cool. And from what I've seen of your team, I mean, it covers everything. It covers sound, covers lighting, covers uh,
Yeah,
singing, musicianship, all kinds of different things. Like
yeah,
if you
operating
want
in
to learn about
apostolic
that sort of thing,
authority.
yeah.
Yeah, advancing in the fivefold ministry. Developing a discipleship culture in the local church, developing a worship culture. Even one of the classes, which I think is so crucial in the day in which we're living, videography for
Mm,
evangelism, marketing, and promotion. I mean, building a creative team in your local church, building a volunteer base, even guitar and bass technique. We could go on. There's going to be so many great things for anybody who participates in this to be a part of. And that was our goal in developing this, to make it where, okay, it's not going to be just a live recording, because I wanted to empower, I wanted to equip, I wanted to engage uh, those who may never be able to make it over to the United States, those who may never be able to be a part of something like this. I wanted them to be able to say, yes, we got tools, we got resources. We were able to further the kingdom because of this initiative. And so that's my passion. That's my heartbeat right now, is to impact not just the US, but to impact nations.
yeah, it really is cool, and I'm so looking forward to it. The only problem for me is going to be trying to pick which which stream I go to, because there's probably about like 7 different ones that I want to go to, and I developed a burning question while talking to you. Those of you who have heard the ministry of Aaron Bounds, he's a tremendous preacher, but he's also a very good singer and a harmonica player. Is that going to make an appearance on the live recording or no?
Man, I can't say yay or nay on that, but something is in the works for that. So
Oh,
it's
nice. We might get some
yeah, he
throwback. That'd be great.
maybe absolutely. He's phenomenal. Aaron Bounds is phenomenal. Jonathan McDonald is phenomenal. The whole team, man, it's
Mm.
going to be life changing. You're not going to want to miss this.
So if people want to keep up with what's going on, obviously it's a little over a year away, but there's going to be developments over time. If people are
Yeah.
wanting to keep up to date with what's happening, how do they stay connected to this project?
Yeah, so obviously following us on social media it's gonna be a given. Obviously, everything we're doing will be announced on social media. You can either follow Tyler D. Sullivan, or you can follow Equip and Engage on Instagram, on Facebook. It's going to be basically partnered every time we post something. So it'll be announced on there. Also, you can go to equipandengage.org, and you can find all of the details on the website. And we'll try to keep everything updated there as much as we can. And just, man, it's going to be announced. Try to keep something coming out every couple of weeks regarding this, just because we want it to be as impacting and as effective as possible. So definitely follow us on social media. That's going to be the main that's going to be the main thrust here, just to keep information flowing through there.
Yeah, we'll make sure to link that through on the podcast and also on YouTube. So if you're watching it there or you're listening to this, get down in the show notes and all the links will be there. You won't have to try and remember that and type it out. Just click a link. But man, it's been so great having you on and talking about this. We're very excited and we're looking forward to what God is going to do through the Beyond Project next year in 2024. Was there anything else you wanted to share as we wrap this up here today?
Man, we're just so excited about this. And I believe that this is going to be a launching pad for the future. I don't believe this will end with Australia. I don't believe it's just going to be a 1 year deal. I believe that God's heartbeat, like I said, is towards the nations right now. And so looking forward, this is going to be a great launching pad. This is going to be a great learning experience for all of us. But I do believe God's going to do great things through it. I do believe that great things will come out of this. And we're just choosing to believe that God's going to do exceeding abundantly above all that we could ever ask or think. And I know we don't have much time left here on earth, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I'm impacting as many people as possible, just to keep God on the front burner and make sure we're advancing his kingdom, because everything at the end of the day is all about him, and it's all about his agenda, and it's all about what he wants. And so we have to keep him the main thing. And I believe that God's going to help us do this. And we're excited about it. We're so thankful for you all at the Pentecostals of Sydney. We're so thankful for everything that you guys have done to help us with this. And thank you for agreeing with us in this partnership in this project. And so we love you guys. We're excited about it. And we can't wait to get there in 2024.